Have you ever noticed that the kinder you try to be, the more chaos seems to find you? You give patiently, you forgive quickly, you make room for other people's flaws, and somehow the people who enter your life keep taking more than they give. You tell yourself you are just unlucky in relationships. Or that you simply have not met the right person yet. But a quieter voice inside wonders if something deeper is at work. Why do the most thoughtful, considerate people so often end up entangled with partners who drain them, dismiss them, or slowly erode their sense of self? Carl Jung spent much of his life mapping the hidden architecture of the human psyche. He observed that we do not attract people randomly. We attract the unfinished business of our own inner world. The very qualities you pride yourself on, your patience, your empathy, your willingness to see the best in others, can become magnets for those who have never developed those same capacities. What looks like bad luck is often a precise psychological pattern. In the next few minutes you will see exactly how this pattern forms, why it feels almost impossible to break, and what Jung understood about reclaiming the part of yourself that has been quietly inviting the wrong people in. Most people believe attraction is about chemistry or shared values. Jung saw something more unsettling. He noticed that the parts of ourselves we refuse to acknowledge do not disappear. They simply wait for someone else to carry them. When you disown your own capacity for anger, need, or self-protection, those qualities do not vanish. They seek expression through the people closest to you. The toxic partner becomes the living embodiment of everything you have decided is unacceptable in yourself. This is not mystical. It is the psyche's relentless drive toward wholeness. Consider the person who grows up learning that being good means never making waves. Conflict is dangerous. Needs are burdensome. So they perfect the art of accommodation. They become skilled at sensing what others require and supplying it before it is even asked. On the surface this looks like maturity. Underneath, a quiet resentment begins to build because their own desires are consistently postponed. Jung would say the shadow, the collection of everything the conscious personality rejects, is growing denser. And the denser the shadow becomes, the stronger its magnetic pull on people who freely express the very traits that have been forbidden. You may recognize the early stages. You meet someone who seems intense, complicated, or slightly wounded. Something in you feels called to help. Their chaos feels familiar, almost comforting, because it mirrors the chaos you once learned to manage in childhood or in previous relationships. You tell yourself that with enough understanding they will change. What you do not yet see is that their unreliability, their emotional unavailability, or their subtle cruelty is not an accident. It is the precise opposite of the persona you have worked so hard to maintain. Your kindness and their carelessness form a complete circuit. One cannot exist without the other in this particular dance. Jung described this dynamic through the concept of projection. We project onto others the qualities we cannot yet own. If you have never allowed yourself to be selfish, you will find selfish people endlessly fascinating and endlessly disappointing. If you have never claimed your own right to walk away, you will keep choosing partners who test how long you will stay. The relationship becomes a stage on which your unlived life plays out through someone else's behavior. This is why the same pattern repeats across different partners. The faces change. The underlying psychological contract remains identical. There is a quieter mechanism at work as well. Kind people often carry an unspoken belief that love must be earned through usefulness. If I am patient enough, if I anticipate every need, if I never become a problem, then I will finally be safe. The toxic partner unconsciously colludes with this belief. They provide the perpetual problem that keeps you useful. The more you try to fix or soothe or understand them, the more confirmed your childhood conclusion becomes, my value lies in how much I can endure. Breaking the pattern feels like losing your identity, because the identity was built around the very role that is now destroying you. Midway through this realization a more unsettling question appears. What if the toxic person is not the enemy but the messenger? Jung insisted that the shadow does not arrive to punish. It arrives to complete. Every time you feel drained, dismissed, or slowly erased, the psyche is pointing toward a capacity you have refused to develop. The capacity to set a boundary without apology. The capacity to disappoint someone and survive their disappointment. The capacity to want something for yourself without first justifying it through service to another. Until those capacities are claimed, the outer world will keep sending teachers in the form of difficult partners. This does not mean every difficult relationship is your fault. Some people are genuinely harmful and should be left. But Jung's insight goes deeper than blame. It asks why the same dynamic keeps finding its way to your door. The answer is rarely that you are too kind. The answer is that kindness has been used as a substitute for self-possession. True kindness includes the willingness to protect what is valuable in yourself. Without that protection, kindness becomes a form of self-abandonment, and self-abandonment is the most reliable invitation for people who specialize in taking. Watch how the pattern escalates over time. In the beginning the imbalance is subtle. You give more time, more understanding, more emotional labor. You tell yourself it is temporary. Then the scale tips further. Small disrespects are overlooked because they are going through a hard time. Larger violations are rationalized because no one is perfect. Eventually you find yourself defending the relationship to friends who can see what you cannot. The more energy you pour into holding the connection together, the more the other person senses that the cost of their behavior is low. Your tolerance becomes the very thing that permits the toxicity to grow. Jung would point out that the psyche hates unfinished business. As long as you refuse to confront the part of yourself that is afraid of being alone, afraid of being seen as difficult, or afraid of discovering that love does not require endless self-sacrifice, the outer relationship will continue to dramatize that fear. The toxic partner is not inventing the dynamic. They are simply the most available actor for a script that was written long before they arrived. This is why leaving one difficult relationship often leads to another that feels eerily similar. The script has not changed. Only the cast has. There is a moment, usually after repeated disappointment, when something shifts. You begin to notice the pattern not as misfortune but as information. The exhaustion is information. The quiet resentment is information. The sense that you are slowly disappearing is information. Jung called this the beginning of consciousness. Once you see the projection, you can no longer fully believe the story that the problem lives only outside you. The work then becomes reclaiming what was projected. If you have spent years attracting people who cannot commit, the question turns inward: where have I refused to commit to myself? If you keep meeting people who dismiss your feelings, the question becomes: where have I dismissed my own? This reclamation is rarely comfortable. It requires feeling the very emotions you once outsourced: anger at being used, grief at years spent accommodating, fear that claiming space might mean being left. Yet Jung observed that the shadow, once faced, loses much of its compulsive power. The magnetic pull weakens because the psyche no longer needs an external figure to carry the disowned material. You stop looking for someone to complete what only you can complete. The most important shift is not becoming less kind. It is becoming more whole. Kindness that includes self-respect stops attracting people who only know how to take. Boundaries do not make you less loving. They make your love sustainable. The people who remain in your life after you stop abandoning yourself are usually the ones capable of meeting you as an equal rather than as a resource. The others drift away, not because you have become cold, but because the unspoken contract has been rewritten. You may still feel the old pull from time to time. Someone arrives who seems to need exactly the patience and understanding you once offered so freely. The difference is that now you can notice the pull without automatically answering it. You can feel the familiar urge to rescue and still choose not to. That moment of choice is the evidence that the pattern is loosening. Jung never promised that integrating the shadow would make life painless. He only claimed it would make life more real. And reality, however imperfect, is the only ground on which genuine connection can grow. The quiet truth is this: the people you attract are not random tests of your goodness. They are precise mirrors of the places where you have not yet claimed your own power. Every time you choose to stay in a dynamic that diminishes you, you are not proving your loyalty. You are postponing the moment you finally become responsible for your own completeness. When that responsibility is taken, the outer world reorganizes. Not because the universe rewards virtue, but because the psyche no longer needs to outsource its unfinished work. So the next time you feel the familiar pull towards someone who requires endless understanding while offering little in return, pause. Ask what part of yourself is still hoping to be completed through them. Then decide, consciously, whether you are willing to keep handing that part away. The answer to that question determines whether the pattern continues or finally ends. If this has named something you have felt for a long time, leave a comment with the single pattern you most recognize in your own relationships. It helps others feel less alone in the same realization. And if you want to go further into the hidden mechanics of the psyche, stay close. There is more to uncover.